Let us see our week 5 lab exercise, right. So, in this week we are going to deploy a web application in our cloud platform. Okay, it is very important exercise, and most of the interviews when you sit for SD role or even if you are sitting for ML role, today ML ops is also trending, right. So, knowing only how to build ML applications is not enough, you should also know how to deploy those applications. So, for both SD role and ML role of deploying applications, it could be a web application or it could be an ML application, right, we are going to work on. So, this week we are going to study or we are going to work on how to deploy a web application in the cloud, right. So, it is prerequisite is that you should already have a web application readily built in your local system or in some GitHub, right. So, before coming to the lab, please get your code ready. If you have not designed any application, you build a small web app, maybe some static pages you can have, right, a portfolio website of your profile you can build, and you try to load it in your GitHub or in your get it in your mail, that whole code if possible to the lab. It is required mandatory because we cannot spend time designing the web app in the lab, right. So, assuming that you have your application or the code ready with you in GitHub or in your local drive, right. So, we will try to deploy the applications. Okay. So, the expected thing is that once you deploy them in AWS or in Azure, right, it will generate a URL. That URL you have to share it with your friends over WhatsApp or some other source, and you should be able to, they should be able to access your web page because you are making it live, right. And I say in every week that once you do this exercise, please delete all your resources. Okay. So, maybe for this you are creating an S3 bucket, right, then you are loading some files into that. Okay. You are creating you are enabling static website, no, you will be doing this. Okay. So, all these things you have to disable it in lab before you leave. This is very important because once you are launching your web app and your friends starts accessing them, the hits will keep coming to the your account, your website, and that will be calculating the amount, right. So, you please make sure of that. Let us see what is the procedure of doing deploying a web application in the AWS first. So, build your web application in the local machine and have the code ready with you, step 1. Then step 2, log into AWS, create S3 bucket and make sure that block all public access is unchecked, because we are going to create a URL and we are going to give this public access, means anybody, you, me, your friends should be able to access that your web page, right. So, once you create a bucket, you have to see this access in the permissions, you have to go and uncheck this, because this is always checked, block all public access. So, once you uncheck it, it is available freely for everyone, right. Then upload all your files, .html, right, .css, whatever .js, whatever extensions or whatever style you are building the web application, that you have to upload into your S3 bucket. And once you upload that data into the S3 bucket, the code into S3 bucket, that bucket's properties tab, right, in the same bucket, let us say you create a bucket name as abc_web, right. So, you click on the properties tab of the bucket, enable static website hosting. At the end, in the properties tab at the bottom, you can see there is a checkbox, enable the static website hosting you have to enable, and it will ask you what is the index file, means what is the main landing page. So, you have to give your HTML file, that index or the main HTML file, you have to link it there. After that, go to permissions tab of that same bucket and change bucket name in the bucket policy. There will be one bucket policy. If you click on the permission tab, then you will see bucket policy. So, it will show you some JSON code. In that, you have to make sure that the bucket, whatever bucket name you have created, that is added in this bucket policy, right. Then after this, go back to properties tab, you will find URL at the static website hosting. After you change this policy, bucket policy, again you go back to properties tab, you will find a URL something like this. See here, my Angular app 123.s3-website. So, this URL will be there. This you copy paste, this you copy and you try to share it with your friends, or you put it in your WhatsApp and in your mobile you try to access that website and see whether you are able to see that or not. through this URL. So this is the task for this week, right? Very, very important, how to deploy web application. But this is one approach of deploying application. There are multiple other ways of doing it, right? So what if I want to write the code from the scratch in AWS itself? That is possible, right? So that is your backend deployment. Okay, what is Amplify? See, Amplify is one thing which will connect to your GitHub. It will connect to your GitHub automatically. Whatever changes you make there, that will be reflected in the Amplify. AWS Amplify is one service there, right? Put all the code in the GitHub, connect your GitHub to this Amplify, right? And you can always do that deployment. It is similar to this only. Okay, so but here I am saying you should have all your files in your local machine, so that you have to upload into S3 bucket. But in this, we will not deploy, or we will not use S3 bucket concept here in the Amplify method. Okay, we will connect it directly with the GitHub. But in that case, first case, what I explained, what we are doing, we are downloading the code from GitHub or your local thing, then you are uploading into S3 bucket. Okay, so that is one way. There are other ways of doing also, right? So you have to explore all these ways, right? So we are giving 2 weeks for this web application deployment. All the at least 3 ways, 3 approaches or 3 techniques you have to do: EC2 deployment, or AWS Amplify, or backend deployment, or the one which I have said by uploading into S3 bucket, right? So please explore all these options. 2 weeks we are going to spend on this deploying web application. Once you are master with this, immediately we are going to jump for the machine learning deployment, the 7th week, right? So this is for AWS. In Azure also it is the same procedure, almost same, right? So in Azure, what we have to do, same, build your application in local machine and have the code ready with you. Then log in into Azure, create storage account. If you have deleted your previous week's storage account, you create one more storage account. Open the storage account, go to data management, and then there is one checkbox again, static website. You have to enable it. Once you enable this, automatically a container will be created like this. A container will be created in that storage account. A container will be created, $web, automatically created. Then here in this container, you upload all your source code. Once you upload all your source code, you can go to static website page and get the URL. Again, go back to the static website. There you will find the URL something like this. This URL again you can share it with your friends, and you should be able to access that website publicly, right? Here also we do have different methods through Azure App Service, right? So app services means you will again get the data from the GitHub. Okay, so then the second one, static web apps. Here itself you can write the code. Okay, so only for front end applications you can go with this. Only static pages like portfolio websites, no, you can go with this, right? And obviously there is backend deployment. What is backend deployment in both AWS and Azure? You will be doing everything from the console. You will have a database for that, right? So you will create a database, and it will a lot of Node.js or Java code at the or Python code in the backend. So application is very big application. So this also you have to try, right? But for week 5, for simple, at least do this part, generate the link URL and share it with your friends, and make sure that application is working. One important thing is that in both the methods, you see the method here is HTTP, right? And here also it is HTTPS is coming. So sometimes HTTP will not be other people cannot access that. Some security error will come that this is not secure, you cannot access this. So there is one approach of changing this HTTP URL to HTTPS in AWS. Okay, that also you have to see how to make that change and make it. See, you can access this directly. If somebody is not able to access, you have to change it to HTTPS. Okay, so this is week 5 exercise. Please do all the methods, whatever we have given here, everything you have to try. Whether you are sitting for SD role or ML role job, this is very, very, very important. I will share one experience in the next week class about the importance of this deploying applications in the cloud, right? So that's it for week 5. Thank you.